and it was like a lightning bolt. That's what I want to do. I want to do the puppet show. It was quite a spooky sort of illusion that I created.
You really knew how to engage your audience
Yes.
and create that connection.
Yeah, the star of the act that night was Dolly and her exploding boobs. So all the puppets would first of all start off with a trigger, and it was magic. It was the first time, and the only time, that a puppeteer has won the award. Yes.
Hey, I am Alina Reddy and welcome to Foreign Influence.
It was a wild experience.
Something clicked in me and I didn't want to be average anymore. What I love about the dragon is
How did that come about? Well, educated.
So he survived for about an hour.
Best young emerging actor.
Oh, wow.
It has to be on point.
Yeah, yes.
A particular sketch with Rebel Wilson.
Never stopped learning.
I decided to run away.
Here I am, continuing my tennis journey here.
Thought, that's it? A few opinions about what
Passages.
that made your journey harder. Hey everyone, this is Alina Reddy and welcome to Foreign Influence. We are at the Bridge Hotel in Morialek, and today we're having the privilege to have a chat with the Master Puppeteer, world acclaimed Murray Raine. Murray, thank you so much for being a guest on Foreign Influence.
This is such a treat because I have seen the show and I've thought one day I will be a guest, and here I am.
Well, before we start, can I please look at your hands? Because they are the hands that whatever you touch, you give it life. How do you do it?
A puppeteer, it's an unusual profession to decide to want to be a puppeteer. I grew up in Newcastle, and when I was a little boy in primary school, in infant school actually, a puppet show, a marionette show came to my school. And because I was in first grade and I was one of the smallest, I got to sit in the front row at the puppet show. And I had never seen marionettes or string puppets before. And when the puppet show started and all the marionettes were coming out and performing, I was mesmerised by them, and I thought that what I was seeing, they were real people, but small people, and the puppeteers were above them operating. And partway through the show, I looked up, and it was the first time that I realised that there were people above these puppets making them move, and it was like a lightning bolt. I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to do the puppet show. And I went home that day and I told my parents that I'd seen this puppet show, and there were these puppets performing, and it was magic. I said, the puppet people making, and they said, no, it's a puppeteer. They're called a puppeteer. Now, I'd never heard
The term.
I'd never heard the term. And the next day I went to school and I told my teacher and I told my friend here, and they said, oh, well, yeah, here, it will pass, but it didn't. The next school holidays, there was another puppet show that was performing in a department store in Newcastle. And there was a puppeteer up there called Marty McClelland, and she was doing a marionette production of Jack and the Beanstalk. So once again, my mother and I, we were front row watching this puppet show.
I actually find it so sweet how your mom has been so supportive of your interest.
Yeah.
And she took you to see all these performances.
But at the end of the show, we were able to meet Marty, and she said, well, if you're interested in puppets, I run a puppet school every Saturday at the Young People's Theatre in Newcastle, and even though you're only a little boy, but you could come to the school.
Obviously they saw how passionate you were.
By the time I was 10, I was earning money from puppets. I had already designed my own puppet show. Part of the puppet show that I first was doing, I had glove puppets and I had marionettes, and I also had my friends at school because I was doing fairy stories. Like, I suppose like Jack and the Beanstalk and Cinderella and things. My friends would help me operate the puppets. And this went on for a number of years, but as I got older, my friends started to decide that they had more important things to do, like play sport of a weekend, which I wasn't interested in. I just wanted to do the puppet show. So I just started to realise that the only way that I could do my puppet shows was if I did them by myself. And I worked solo. And it started to dawn on me that I couldn't do the fairy stories with lots of puppets on the stage by myself because I've only got two hands.
Yeah.
And about that time, I came across another puppeteer, a very famous puppeteer in Australia called Peter Oldham. And Peter did a cabaret marionette show. But the difference was with this marionette show, he worked solo by himself, and all the puppets he had were cabaret puppets. They were singers, they were dancers, they were trick marionettes. They did special things. Their heads came off, or they turned into a different character.
They spectacular.
They were spectacular. They sang, they danced, they had sequins on, they had feathers on, and my face lit up when I saw them. And it suddenly dawned on me then that I could do a puppet show like Peter was doing by myself. I didn't need others to perform with. I could do these short little cabaret acts, and it appealed to not only children but also adults. And that sort of was the beginning of doing a cabaret performance. And my mother would make all the costumes. One funny thing well, there was lots of funny things with my mother. On my 11th birthday, when all my mates were getting cricket bats and footballs, have a guess what she gave me for my birthday.
A puppet.
No, not a puppet.
A marionette?
A feather boa.
A feather boa.
A feather boa. She gave me a feather boa.
A little bit different from a football.
That's right. I wasn't interested in the football, you see, but the feather boa, it was magic. To go with this feather boa, I built a beautiful songstress that could perform with the feather boa, and she made the costume and things. I was starting to add trick marionettes to my show. Now, when I say trick marionettes, puppets that could perform a speciality. They might juggle, they might come out as a clown but turn upside down and become a princess. There was always a specialty to them, and there was always a trick to them. The one trick marionette that I truly wanted to do was the trapeze artist. Now, the trapeze artist was notorious because it was difficult to not only design, build, string, but to manipulate. And I searched books at the library because then we didn't have the internet. There was no Google.
Yes,
I had to go to
different.
the library. And I searched all the puppet books that Newcastle libraries had. Nothing mentioned about a trapeze artist. At that time, Norman Hetherington, who is Australia's master puppeteer, and he performed a puppet on Australian television that is an icon called Mr. Squiggle, and I'm sure everybody knows Mr. Squiggle. Norman was also the president of the New South Wales Puppetry Guild, which I was a member of. So my mother said, you know, if you can't find how to do this trapeze artist, we'll write to Mr. Hetherington and maybe he might be able to assist.
She was very encouraging, your
Yeah,
mum.
she was. You know, and I said, oh, I don't think he'll write back. But she wrote this letter. We sent it off. A week later, I got home from school. I dropped my school bag and she presented me with a letter from Mr. Hetherington.
Oh, wow.
And there was a design of how the puppet looked, how to build it, how to string it, how the trick worked, and how to perform it. Little did I think when I built my first trapeze artist that 40 years later I would still be performing the trapeze artist. Admittedly, it wasn't the same puppet. I built numerous versions of that puppet, and they would be, each time they would be more extravagant and they would do more tricks than the
So
original one.
impressive.
But that's how it started. And I'm often asked, because my cabaret act not only had the trick marionettes, but also featured celebrities. You know of Dolly Parton?
Of course, yes.
When
the
Dolly-
big bust, yes.
The big, yeah. My mother was an enormous fan of Dolly Parton. Loved her.
Okay, so that's where the
Loved her.
influence came.
So we built a Dolly Parton puppet. I had these foam balls, big balls, that were her breasts.
Yeah,
right?
you need big balls for
That's
that.
right,
yes,
you need
yes.
big balls if you're going to be Dolly Parton. We had Dolly with her large breasts. The case that I would pack her in, unfortunately, when I built the puppet, it was all finished, the lid wouldn't close on it. If we get a larger case, it's going to be more difficult to pack all this in
Yeah.
our car. I came up with the idea that we'll cut the breasts off and we'll replace them with balloons. So when I get to the venue, wherever
can
I'm
just blow
performing,
them up,
blow
yeah.
the balloons and put the balloons in,
Yep.
put the costume on it, zip it up, and it'd be fabulous.
Very pragmatic,
Yeah.
yes.
And it was. Each week I did 2 nights in a restaurant. Now, mind you, I'm still at school, so my mother would drive me to the... So I'm
Incredible.
performing at this restaurant, and Dolly came out, you know, and she's doing a number. Unfortunately, one night, during this act, the audience is enthralled. Well, I guess I was hoping they were enthralled. But they're watching it, and unfortunately, one balloon blew up, which set the other balloon up. So they both, more or less, combusted at the same time. Well, the audience erupted.
Yeah, it must have been very
Erupted.
entertaining.
They're
yeah.
falling about, and you know, I could hear their reaction. The show finished, I took my bow, and I'm backstage, and my mother came out, and she was furious. She was furious. She said, "Why did you do that?" She said, "You beautiful
you did
Dolly,
it on purpose,
you've
yeah.
spoiled Dolly's image." She said, at the same time she's saying this to me, the manager of the venue comes back, and he said, that was a stroke of genius. He said, "Keep it in." They loved it. The star of the act that night was Dolly and her exploding boobs. And I thought, maybe I need to do more celebrities in my show, but not do them straight. Do a caricature of that celebrity, but twist the act. Make it funny, make it a surprise.
It is a powerful message for you to receive and
Yeah.
understand it so early
Yeah.
on in your career.
Little did I think that that act that I started as a child would take me the next 54 years.
Decades, yeah,
And,
decades.
it has taken me around the world. And I've learnt that working as a solo performer can work. It's just a matter of finding your niche in life, or your act, whatever it is, and working away, how do I make a living out of this? Because I think for any artist, making a living out of doing what you love, it's difficult. Certainly in Australia, it is for any artist. And certainly now it is, because there's not the avenues, certainly for a puppeteer or a visual artist, whether it be a magician or a juggler. I was lucky that the bulk of my working career, there was variety television, there was television commercials where they would use puppets. There wasn't AI.
Yes, yes.
Tell me dreams can fly, yeah. When I look at you, I see bluer skies, yeah.
admired how you could adapt to whatever is happening. And when the cruises became very popular in Australia, you got to perform on a lot of boat cruises.
I made my living for 15 years out of cruise ships. I had also worked as principal puppeteer for the Marionette Theatre of Australia up until 1990 when the company closed down. I toured with that company, and I toured with other puppet companies as well as a puppeteer, as a member of the company. I had also worked as an actor as well, but my passion was puppetry.
Murray, you have so many achievements under your belt and so many performances, and you have won 2 Mo Awards, which are a really big deal. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I've won 2 Mo Awards for Best Visual Actor in Australia, and it was the first time and the only time that a puppeteer has won the award. Yes, there's been many magicians, jugglers over the years that have won a Mo, but I'm the only puppeteer that has done it. I guess because it's such an unusual act that I was just delighted and very, very honoured to receive it.
Please describe your creative process from the initial concept to the final performance.
It could take me anywhere from 3 to 6 months to put a new act into my show. Let's say Madonna. We'll just work on Madonna for the moment.
Okay.
Madonna was at the height of her career. Now, Madonna stuck out because she was able to be caricatured. When the cone bra was introduced, that was the trigger. That time, Norman Hetherington, who was Mr. Squiggle, who became my mentor, I approached Norman and he designed many, many of my marionettes. I said to Norman, do you think you could do Madonna for me? And I showed him photographs. He did a number of drawings of her. Then he would show me and I would say, yeah, that's it, that's the one. From that drawing, he would then blow the drawing up, scale the drawing up to the size of the puppet. So the puppets were approximately, if we're standing on the floor, approximately so high. Because they needed to be big, because a lot of the auditoriums that I was performing at would have 9,000 plus people in them. So the audiences often were a long way away from the puppets. So the puppets needed to be large. So once he had done the scale drawing, from that I would then build the puppet. And the trick that I had with Madonna is that the cones at the end of the act would fold down, and inside them were party poppers that would explode out into the audience, which
like Dolly Parton's
like another so please don't get the impression that every puppet had exploding boobs, but it just so happened that we were discussing it, that one did. From the time that I originally thought, yes, I would do that puppet, to the time that it got on the stage, and by the time my musical director edited the music, and then we choreographed a routine, and it finally got in front of an audience. It's roughly about 6 months, so it's quite a while. But with the Madonna story, there is a funny tag about that, because Norman did an amazing, beautiful job with the design. But years later, I found out that, in fact, at the time when I asked him to do it, he'd never heard of Madonna. He had no idea who she was, yet she was at the height of her fame. So all the puppets would first of all start off with a trigger. I would have to find something that I felt, A, the audience would know, that they would react to, that they would find entertaining, and then I would have to work out a way, well, how can I twist this, how can I make this act entertaining? Because just bringing the puppet on and having it sing, well, what's the point?
You really knew how to engage your audience and create that connection.
Yeah, and also I learnt at a very early age that the acts needed to be short. So there was no point doing a full 3-minute number. After the audience has seen the puppet, they've got an idea of what it does, then they start to think, well, okay, we've seen this, next.
Yeah.
So I discovered that keeping the acts to maybe a minute and a half, sometimes I could drag it to 2 minutes if I had a number of changes in it, if the costumes flew off and it turned into something else. I might get 2 minutes out of it. But that also meant that if, say, on a cruise ship where I'm doing 55 minutes an hour, that's a lot of puppet acts and a lot of material. So I was travelling with like 150 kilos, 160, 180 kilos of equipment.
Murray, you were talking about Norman Hetherington and Mr. Squiggle, and I understand there is a big exhibition right now about his work.
Yes. In Canberra, at the National Museum, there is an exhibition about Mr. Squiggle. It's called Mr. Squiggle, the Norman Hetherington Work. And the exhibition plays from now in July right through until the 13th of October, and then it tours Australia to museums all over Australia, and it's a celebration of Norman's work from the early 1940s right through until the 1990s. It's celebrating Norman Hetherington, Mr. Squiggle, and 100 of his marionettes, his artwork. It is just spectacular. And the other week I had the pleasure and the honour of performing at the opening of the exhibition. I strongly recommend, if you love puppets, that the exhibition, it's an absolute must. Because he was an icon in Australia, and I think all Australians that were brought up with Mr. Squiggle need to make that trip and just see the exhibition. It's beautiful.
Murray, you have done so many shows, but which one stands out to you the most?
Over a period of 54 years, that's that's
what a legacy.
A lot of shows. Because I retired 1 year ago, and the last show that I designed and built was an adults only humanette show. Now you might wonder, well, what is a humanette show? A humanette, it's a puppet, but it's performed in a theatre that's the background is completely black, and I would dress completely in black. The puppet's body was approximately this big, and it hung around my neck, and its neck was connected to mine. So I would wear these elaborate headdresses, depending on what character it was.
That's so interesting.
And the puppet would appear, it was a form of what we call black art theatre, where it was an illusion. So the audience watching it, it was like seeing a puppet, a miniature puppet, but my head being animated and lip syncing to a soundtrack, and I would operate its arms and its legs. So it was quite a spooky sort of illusion that I created. And I did a show, a comedy show, adults only, called They Came from Uranus, which was about aliens coming down to kidnap a burlesque performer who they had found, who they discovered while they were living on Uranus. They had tuned into YouTube and they'd found this beautiful burlesque performer. It was an enormous success, and I loved doing it.
Well, just the name was so powerful.
The audiences were wonderful, and I decided that, it was time to retire, that I will retire on a high, and now I'm happily doing things like this, having time to speak to you and go and see puppet shows rather than have to do them.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of our show.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
I wish you all the best with your retirement.
Thank you very much. Lovely.